Okay, so we've talked about how to prepare your plan and how to execute it. We've also talked a little bit about how to prepare your social media project, and that is mainly in a different course, which I hope you watched. But now we're going to talk about how to prepare yourself as a person, because boy, nothing is going to shock your lifestyle and your existence as doing this. And you should be prepared. There will be a lot of sacrifices that you'll have to make, not just for yourself. Your family and friends will have to make those sacrifices as well. And of course, there's financial, there's time, there's fun. All of this will have to be sacrificed in one way or another. And if you're not prepared to do this probably is not for you. Just like any small business requires all of this, and if you're not up for it, the chances of success are much smaller. So let's dive in. First of all, and I mentioned this before, you need to treat this as a job. I mean, this is essentially your full-time job that you're just kind of growing for yourself. Um, I can't repeat it enough times. If you don't treat it as a full-time job right now, you probably will not have this as a full-time job in the future. Now, here are a few things how you can do that. One is pretend like you have a boss and customers. Now, don't forget, you will have the toughest boss you will ever have in your life, which is yourself. You can never clock out. Your boss is always around, and your boss always knows when you're slacking off. And also, make sure you understand that you have customers, which are your viewers or your listeners, your readers, your potential sponsors, other people in the business that you're dealing with, PR people, marketing people of other brands, other YouTubers, and just so many people around you are essentially becoming your customers. So make sure to treat it as such. Secondly, work ethic. Again, don't forget you can't get away from your boss, so make sure your work ethic is on point. Make sure to show up on time. Don't be late to your own projects. Don't miss your own deadlines. Make sure that everything you do well and 100%. Now, I'm not saying do it to perfection. Remember, we talked about this. You don't want to be a perfectionist. You want to make sure you're the guy who's meeting deadlines and does the best he or she can to meet those deadlines. And sometimes quality might suffer, but again, it's all about meeting the deadlines. Another one, and this might actually surprise you, dress for success. If you're going to be on camera, especially, make sure that you're dressed appropriately for the topic that you're talking about. People will notice if you're dressing up for your job. Your customers, your coworkers, your partners will all notice. So make sure to do that. Now, of course, if you're writing a blog and if you are doing a podcast, you don't have to dress up as much. But if someone's taking a picture or video of that's going to be posted somewhere or on your social media as well, still make sure to be very presentable. People will notice. Now, and I guess I can't believe I have to say this, but act appropriately. Now, don't forget that you will have customers who and essentially their viewers and your potential sponsors who will be watching your videos or consuming your product when there are other people around. A lot of times there are families. I personally had a few of my viewers send pictures of how they consume my product, and a lot of times they're sitting around the living room and watching my show, and their children around. So you don't want to curse. You don't want to be. You obviously don't want to say anything that will disturb their families, or even if they're watching you in their workplace. You want to be workplace safe as well. Don't curse. I already mentioned that, but again, still, just because you're not cursing doesn't mean you're not saying anything inappropriate. Now, if you're about being controversial, then be controversial, but you can still do this with respect to everybody else who might be watching or listening or reading this around your viewers. Don't forget, if you're going to be working with other businesses, PR people, brands, sponsors, and so forth, they have their own guidelines of what is appropriate and what is not as far as who they are willing to work with. You might want to read them if you believe you might be on the edge there, but overall, as a general practice, you want to stay kind of right there in the middle, because you will depend on those people to make your income. I don't I'm not saying don't express your opinion, but express your opinion in a respectful and appropriate way. I hope that makes sense. And again, this is for you to decide. I'm just saying that if you don't, you will limit a lot of opportunities and obviously a lot of your future income. Now, um, I suggest to you, if you don't have at least 20 hours each week to dedicate to this, don't do it. I mentioned that this has to be a job, and yes, it will be a part-time job, but the part-time job needs to be at least 20 hours a week. Now, well, wait a second. That's a lot. That's a lot of time. You say I don't know how I can get those 20 hours a week. Maybe on the weekend, but so let's talk about it because you will need to, and there are a few ways how you can do it. First of all, don't forget you only work 8 hours per day, and there's 24 hours in an entire day. I don't know if you've heard. So you have about 16 hours to play with. I know you need to sleep and eat and drive and so forth, but let's break those down as well. Friends and family obviously are very important, but if you're starting a business, you're gonna have to sacrifice some of it. And this is something to talk about with your friends and family, whether or not they're willing to support you in this. Are they okay if you don't join them for a fishing trip one of these days? Is your family okay that sometimes you'll skip dinner or a movie trip? It's unfortunate, and I'm not saying stop seeing your friends and family. I'm just saying everybody will have to sacrifice. Another thing, and this is actually pretty important, you're probably gonna think of this as maybe a little bit of a joke, but in the morning, no more snoozing. No more snoozing. Nothing disrespects your own time more than you starting your day, but basically already failing to meet your own deadline of getting up. If you know how much sleep you need to get and you know how much stuff you need to get done that day. So if you set your alarm to 7 a.m. and it rings, you need to get up. It's scientifically proven that when you snooze, you obviously don't fall back asleep, even though you feel like you do, but you don't get the quality of sleep that you think you get. So if you snooze for another 30 minutes, it will not, and you probably noticed this, it probably will not make you feel any less sleepy or better. So don't. If you need that extra 30 minutes and you know that in the evening, then set your alarm for 7:30 a.m. But if you're setting it for 7, get up right away. Now, you can do a few things. You can, prop yourself up and start, reading and answering emails and checking your social media and so forth, replying to comments. That's perfectly fine. You can start working in bed, but make sure that you open your eyes and start functioning right away. There are different tricks, and there are books and videos written and made about this. Some people buy these alarms that they set somewhere far away from your reach, and then they jump off of the nightstand and start dancing around. You have to chase it around the room, and in order to shut it up, and by the time you do, you're already awake. There's so many different methods. Check out some videos about that. There are books, but make sure that you no longer snooze in the morning, because again, this is the worst way to start your day as far as respecting your own time and definitely respecting your new business. I've mentioned this before, but some of the fun will have to go. Less of watching movies, less of playing computer games, less of playing games, just less of fun, unfortunately. But I propose to you that your new business should be enough fun for you. Otherwise, why start one? It should be enough fun for you where replacing playing computer games should almost feel natural. If you have an hour and you want to go and make a video, create a script, or learn how to use a camera, and you want to do that more than playing a computer game or watching a movie, then you're in the right place. But if every time you go like, oh man, I have to go and make a video, I have to do this, I'd rather play a game or I'd rather watch something, then you won't, maybe this is not for you. So make sure, and this is a good test from the very beginning, that you are inclined to do things for your business slash hobby than your actual hobbies and just downtime. Don't forget, there's a lot of time that you have that you just kind of never given enough credit to. If you have a full-time job, don't forget, you have the lunchtime and you have commute where it's your time. Learn how to use that time for your own advantage. If you need to catch up with some news or listen to another episode of a YouTube coach that you're following, this is the time to do it on the way to work or from work, where obviously you need to listen mainly. Obviously, please don't watch YouTube videos. Watch them, but you can play them through your speakers, or podcasts, and so forth, and learn while you're driving rather than listening to your favorite, music station or Spotify station. You know, it should be music to your ears to actually learn something as you're driving to and from work. And there are quite a few other things that you can accomplish while doing that. You can listen to a audiobook, but I can go on and on. So, and lunchtime is no other. If you need to make a phone call for your business, well, maybe you don't go to lunch with your coworkers. Maybe you grab something that you bring from home and you go into a separate room, or in your car, especially in your car, is a private place which is yours. You're not using facilities of the company you work for. Please don't do it. Please check on the policies of the company you work for, what you can and cannot do while you're there as far as your personal business is concerned. That's very important. But I would suggest to go to your car, and if you need to make a phone call, if you need to make a social media post, this is the time to do it. Again, you probably get an hour or even more for lunch. Maybe a couple times a week you hang out with your coworkers, but 3 times you do the social media, the learning, the posting, and so forth, in your car, and of course making phone calls. A lot of times that's your only time when you can make a phone call, plus the commute, when it's during business hours. And of course, brands and other PR people and other just people in your industry will only be available 9 to 5. So those are very precious times for you to utilize for your business. Now, I've already mentioned, but weekends is another way how you can gain a lot of those 20 hours. And you're gonna have to sacrifice to satisfy those 20-hour requirement. And by the way, 20 hours is minimum. And again, I hate to give myself as an example, but I work 30 and 40 extra hours every week. Granted, I don't have kids, but I have other things as well. I have friends and family, so I did have to cut down on that. And some trips that I thought were too long for my taste, where you just couldn't, sacrifice this much time without taking it away from my a small business or a movie. Even if you want to have a romantic time with your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your husband or your wife, instead of going to a movie that's not that much of a quality time, if you obviously just staring at the screen for 2.5 hours and a bunch of previews, maybe you just do dinner, which is more quality time, and walk around the block. I know maybe not as exciting and fun as the movie, but you know you have to find the time. A lot of times people do involve their significant others in their projects, and their significant others more than happy to help. A lot of times they would learn the equipment that they need to use to film you or help you with your podcasts and blogs and videos and so forth. See if you can get your significant other excited about it. Maybe even friends and family and kids. It could be a family project. Now, I know it's kind of weird that we're talking about shopping, but people do waste a lot of time shopping. Instead of going to the store, grocery shopping or even clothes shopping, use Amazon, use Safeway online, and whatever other ways how you can order stuff online so you don't have to do it. Of course, you can ask your significant other, but if they're busy as well, streamline your shopping. I'm telling you, if you think about it, you waste a lot of time doing that, where a lot of times you have to buy the same stuff over and over again. So just make sure to automate it. Make sure to do it from the comfort of your own home, where you don't have to drive somewhere. But if you do drive, make sure once again that you, maybe instead of listening to music or podcast that's fun, you listen to something or make a phone call that will benefit your small business. Now, last but not least, because this list can go on and on and on, and really it's going to be up to you. These are just very common suggestions, but it's going to be up to you depending on what you value more: time with friends and family, or your game time, or your me time, or whatever it is. You're just going to have to carve out those 20 hours. So it's going to be up to you. But one of the last things that I would recommend is to learn how to say no. A friend of yours who may be well off wants you to give him a ride to an airport, Sorry, you're busy and there is Uber. Same thing with somebody trying to, get you to help them move. I know it's a bonding experience with your friends. You don't want to say no, but unless they're dirt poor and without you, they're just not able to move and they have no other friends, you can say, I'm sorry. I'm working on my business. I am moving as well. I'm moving my careers. And here's a phone number to a local moving company that you can hire with a really great Yelp reviews. Now, I know it just sounds a little harsh, but again, this is all about your friends and family understanding that you now have two jobs and you're doing something that's extremely important for you. And so, if they're really true friends and family who support you, they will definitely understand. Like I said, this list can go on and on and on, but really, at the end of the day, what really matters is what you can sacrifice without hating your new job. Again, it's very important that whatever time you spend on your new job, on this new social media project, is more fun for you, at least, or at least as much fun as all of the things that you're cutting out of your life. And again, I can't emphasize this enough, don't cut everything out. Don't cut out the time with your family. Of course, that's impossible, but try to streamline it. Try to make sure that you take a little bit off of everything. And there's some things that you can really live without, like for example, I love hockey, but I've decided I don't need to watch 2 hours of hockey every other day because I'm following my team. Sometimes I can just watch highlights, and sometimes I can watch the beginning and the end that are kind of more exciting parts for me as far as hockey is concerned. And sometimes, you know what? Just gonna find out the score and said, I'm sure it was a great game, but I was doing something more important for myself, and that's just how it is. So have a conversation with yourself, have a conversation with your significant other, your family, your friends, and see what is more important. Sit down and write down all of the activities that you do and all the time that it takes, and make sure to carve out those 20 hours. And again, make sure that these are the 20 hours that you want to spend doing all of this stuff. Yes, some of it is tedious, but if you're really that interested in succeeding, those tasks are no longer tedious. They are something that you know that are helping you to move forward to your future of becoming a full-time social media influencer, and that is an amazing life. So please stop now and cut out 20 hours a week. There are exceptions like vacations and so forth, but 20 hours a week that you can dedicate to this, what essentially is going to be your full-time job.